Pranams to Sathguru and pranams to Swamiji. First of all, I would like to thank Swamiji. By the grace of Sri Sathguru and Swamiji, I have been asked to do this seva, and I'm eternally grateful to Swamiji for this. And I pray and hope that I will do justice to the script. Start with the Dhyana Shlokas. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya Namah Pankaja Maline Namah Pankaja Netraya Namaste Pankajangrin. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hareye Paramatmane Pranata Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matra Rupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Jagatah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnur Guru Devo Maheshwaraha. Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vande Navanita Gandhavaham Vachane Taskara Chaturi Dhurinam Nayane Kuhanashraya Mashrayethaha Charane Komala Tandavam Kumaram. Sajala Jalada Neelam Darshitodara Neelam Karatala Dhrita Shailam Venunadai Rasalam Smita Lalita Kapolam Snigdha Sangeeta Lolam Shatamaravari Pukalam Shatakumbaba Chelam Kuvalaya Dala Neelam Naumi Gopala Bala. I prostrate before that Gopala Bala, who is dark-hued like the fresh-water-laden clouds, whose nature is Audarya itself, who lifted the Govardhan of Gokula, and in his Venunada, who is keen to play and dance around the Gopikas and who looks beautiful wearing the simple Tulasi Mala. I prostrate before that Gopala Bala, whose cheeks look more attractive due to his captivating smile absorbed in his Venugana with beautiful tresses adorned in yellow silken robes, a versatile master in lying, a Yama to the foes of Devendra and beautiful with eyes resembling a blue lotus. Kamaniya Kishora Mugdha Murtehe Kaka Venukavinata Dhritanaha Mama Vachi Vijrambhatam Murarehe Madhurimna Kanikapi Kapikara. Sri Krishna is the most amazing character who fills the void of many hearts at every stage in one's life. He's the darling of all, the mischievous, adorable boy of Gokula, a warrior who vanquished Master Prince of the mighty foes, a prince of romance to the gopis and all the women who yearned to make him theirs. A master philosopher who gave the eternal Gita to the world, a son, a husband, a friend, and an anchor to shoulder the burden of all his devotees, of whom Kunti, Yadavas, etc. stand out supreme. And last but not the least, the one who led his devotees to the supreme state of moksha, whether they were the rustic gopis or the inimical asuras, or the ardent devotees like Bhishma or Uddhava. Though Srimad Bhagavatam is the epic which depicts all the avatars of Vishnu also, with all the necessary requirements and descriptions like Sarga, Visarga, Vamsha Varnana, etc. that is expected in the making of the Purana, the Dashama Skanda remains supreme, the absolute reason being that it is Krishna Maya throngs out and oozes out the honey of Krishna Prema born out of his leelas and exploits. It describes the leelas of Krishna, who's endearing as a baby, amusing and entertaining as mischievous little Krishna, the flute bearer of Vrindavan, a lover par excellence to the gopis, taking them to the realm of ecstasy, amazing and awesome always, solemn and sublime, imparting momentous lessons to the humanity in general. All these shows that he is an inseparable being to us at all stages of the journey of life, from birth, childhood, youth, old age, and why to our last breath. Though all his forms are lovable, I think the universal favorite will be the most adorable form of him as the little boy, that is Balakrishna. To children, he is their friend. To the boy next door, mischievous, a rogue at times, telling lies, cheating, a trickster who did innocent pranks on the guileless and simple folks of Gokula. The usual bedtime stories told by grandmothers centered around Balakrishna, and we requested them not to stop when it was coming to an end. The story of Putana, Shakatasura, and others were by heart for us, though the tattva underlining them were understood much later. Apart from killing the asuras, there are stories of cheating the fruits of his friends and eating them, astonishing Yashoda when he opens his mouth and shows the endless world inside. And before truth dawns on her that it is the Parabrahma and not his little boy who's standing in front of her, he mesmerizes her to come back to the worldly Maya by hugging her and asking her to feed him as he is hungry. There is a message on every act of his, whether it is Kaliya Mardana, Ulukhala Bandhana, or Govardhana Uddharana. From all these leelas, we realize that he is the Purnavatara, vanquishing Indra, Agni, Varuna, Brahma, etc. We see how he consumes the forest fire in Ambikavana, or bringing back Nanda, who is kidnapped and taken to his loka by Varuna, or to the wonder of all, while crushing the garva of Indra and Brahma in Govardhana Uddharana as Vatsasteya, respectively. So before coming to the most interesting leelas of that little Krishna, which has arisen from the bhavana of many poets and authors, let me try to convey what I felt as a tatwa, that is what's hidden in those extraordinary leelas of his. Who does not covet Ishvara Sakshatkara? But it is common knowledge that very few achieve it. It is due to the presence of Rajoguna in one that blocks it. That is what happened to Kamsa also. The emotions that spring out of Kamsa are his attendants like Putana, Trinavarta, etc. or Kamsa. The desire is the first emotion. All the rest arises from desire. In the case of Putana, she is by nature asuric, but outwardly beautiful. Desires are also like that. It looks attractive first, but when we indulge and strive to attain them, the ugly reality comes out. Whomsoever gets near them gets destroyed. The children who comes across her all get killed. But when Putana, the mother of all desire, reach the Lord, it is Putana who gets destroyed. Therefore, desires, there is only to vanquish desires, there is only one way. Whatever desire one has directed to the Lord as Ishvara Arpanam. Your existence itself will merge in it. The different emotions which follow desires are all characterized as the asuras who follow her to kill the Lord. The most entertaining part of the leelas are his pranks like the stealing of the butter, etc. As mentioned, there is a lofty tattva behind this Chaurya Krityam. The gopis rushed to see him whenever they got recess, and it became a normal routine to come to Nanda's house in order to delight themselves, to hold and pamper him. By this way, they reached a state of ecstasy that they forgot all their mundane woes while being in his company. Slowly, the Krishnanubhava started budding in their hearts. Though they had no problems about Krishna stealing their stuff, which was their livelihood, they were upset when Krishna broke or stole their pots and pans. When he became aware of this, he started giving them more and more trouble. The tattva behind this is, it is a common knowledge that when a new thought comes across, the previous thought gives way to the new one. That is, when the new thought arises, the old one gets forgotten. It is also the Lord's doing that he wants to stop the roaming nature of the mind, or whatever is the hindrance to his dear devotees from constantly remembering him. So he started destroying the objects that was hindering them from remembering him. That is the pots, pans, and dairy products in this case. By bringing it to the notice of Yashoda, who took care of their woes and helped to achieve the result. At the first outlook, it may look as if these objects are being destroyed by him, but he is actually destroying the ignorance of his devotees. Afterwards, there were no complaints from the Gopikas. The loss of petty pots and pans were forgotten, as his leelas were the only things their mind were glued to. Narayana Bhattadri gives a beautiful picture of this in his Narayaniyam, in a shlokam, Tava Dadhi Grita Moshe, meaning there were absolutely no cause for anger or anguish in the minds of the Gopika in Gokula. Why? Because before he started stealing their curds and butter, he had stolen their hearts and immersed them in the ocean of bliss. Is it possible for anger or anguish to take residence in the ocean of bliss? So he attracted and captivated their mind and intellect by his charm, showing at times his divinity to remove their ignorance, viewing him as an ordinary mortal, as in the case of Vishwarupa Darshanam, where he opens his mouth at Yashoda's behest to show the innumerable worlds inside. There is a big tatwa in the Leela of Ulukhala Bandhana. It is a well-known truth that if mind and karma become polluted, it is a disaster whomsoever he may be. Whether it is the devas who had divine powers or other heavenly beings who fall down from their position, as in the case of Nalakubara and Manigrivas, their prosperity and power should be for the benefit of the world. People who discredit these powers by their arrogant deeds and who fall below can regain their former status only by tapas. So by Narada's grace, they are born as twin trees in Gokula, and by doing penance, by enduring cold and heat, and in the process getting Shapa Moksha by the contact with the Lord. How fortunate it is to get your body filled with Bhagavan, and the jiva getting out of the body through the head to merge with the Lord, as in the case of Aghasura, who came as a python. Look at his fortune. When the time of his death advanced closer, he swallowed up the Gopa boys, who are the vibhutis of the Lord, and later the Lord himself. When the Lord entered him, his Chaitanya spread throughout Aghasura's body. When he could not contain it anymore, it bursted out through the head. Look at his fortune, a feat which is rare and difficult to achieve for even advanced yogis. This is the end result for a devotee when he is filled with Bhagavat Premam inside. Similarly, in Vatsasteya, when Brahma tries a trick, that is Maya, on the little Krishna, forgetting the fact that Krishna is a very Lord and Master of the supreme Maya herself, and that his present position itself has been conferred by his grace only. When his all-powerful Maya can even fool Brahma, what to say about the plight of mortals like us to vanquish that? It is not surprising, though, can vanquish him unless he himself wishes it otherwise. So he goes along Brahma's plan, and in the end, we see Brahma himself descending down, flushed with shame, fear, and guilt, circumambulating and falling at the feet of the blue-eyed boy who is sitting with a rice ball in hand, a flute under his shoulder, the same scene which he saw when he hid the cows and the boys a year ago. In remorse, he renders a stuti with folded hands. The contents of the stuti is extolling the essence of Saguna Bhakti. The ordinary mortal is always engrossed in his body and the three attributes, that is, trigunas, that revolve around that. Unless one is bereft of these three gunas, it is difficult to realize and get the anubhuti of the Lord, who is by nature Triguna. Strangely though, it is largely possible to realize Nirguna Brahma by going through Guna Dharma, only like Nama, Rupa, Sankirtana, etc. That is known as Sagunopasana initially, which eventually will remove the same gunas like Nama, Rupa, etc. to its goal. By pure devotion and contemplating on his divine form and avataras and leelas, bhakti develops automatically, and one forgets the prapancha that is formed with the same gunas and becomes equipped to forget the body, its upadhis and surroundings, to realize and feel the anubhuti of the Lord. This has been effectively conveyed in this stuti by Brahma. All the Upanishads embodied in that beautiful form, adorning the multi-hued garlands made of wild flowers, that is Vanamala, and lovely berries, yellow silken robes, kasturi tilaka in the forehead, and the flute on his lips exuding scintillating music. Oh listeners, leave all the Shastras and Upanishads and devour this ambrosia which this dark-hued cloud is showering. It will quench your thirst for jnana. This is what the simple, rustic and illiterate gopis taught the world. Their bhagyam is one that is of highest order. Begetting jnana is one of the most difficult feat, which these gopikas got easily by constant remembrance. Remembering your lover without any hindrance is naturally easy, but getting the jnanam is not. However, though unemotionally they got their supreme status due to the dharma of the Lord. Again, in the case of Kaliya Mardana, it is about the destruction of the arrogance of Kaliya. It is only just and right to punish a villain. The Lord's incarnation itself is for punishing the wicked and protecting the good. We all know that by the law, Shruti, and by nature itself, Tamoguna abounds in snakes, which are quick-tempered and poisonous. The Lord does know about this nature of Kaliya. Moreover, for the women, their husband is their Lord. Killing him will be harming them who are faultless and who have taken refuge at his feet. The Leela of taking away the robes of the bathing gopis teaches us a very big lesson. Pasteurization of the Lord, who is beyond the attributes, as having all that, is meant for the ordinary man to realize the mahima of the Lord. So it is a folly to equate his leelas and doings with that of an ordinary man whose petty ego and ignorance differentiates everything as dvandvas, like man or woman, rich or poor, young or old, etc. Whose attributes belong only to the body and not to the soul. In fact, this is the greatest sin or wrong, to equate the deeds of the Lord, like the stealing of the robes or the nakedness of the gopis, in a sensual manner that is usual when viewed from a worldly angle. All his leelas, which when viewed from outside is for loka sangraha, and when contemplated, conveys the essence of the Adhyatma Tattva underlining it. Utter surrender where a jiva forgets his body consciousness is jnana itself, and feeling one's identity as different from that of the Lord is ajnana. When the gopis came to the Lord with folded hands over their heads, and they have lost their dehabhimanam and is not conscious of their nakedness, which clearly shows that they don't feel a separate identity from that of the Lord, because they have forgotten the dehabhimanam as mentioned before. This Leela of his is a most pavana, and more scenes of Jiva Brahmaikya are more vividly seen in the Rasa Krida later. The Leela of Viprapatni Anugraham, that is blessing of the wives of the Brahmanas, clearly conveys of the change of the Brahmins who are learned, well-versed in all the Shastras, but are arrogant karmathas themselves. When permission to take home-cooked meal to Krishna and his famished friends were denied by them, the wives ignored their husbands' words and rushed to have a darshan of Krishna. They were simple women who were overjoyed to see the Lord and wanted to be in his company for the rest of their lives. He blessed not only them, but also their husbands for their sake by changing the mindsets of their husbands. The Brahmins were adept in Veda Pathanam, Taponishtha, Vratanusthana, etc. Genuine love for God, performance of karma without the desire for results were there, which the wives possessed. Performance of yajna, knowledge, etc. all observed to gain the above state, which the wives had. Aren't all these exercises futile if the end is not realized? So this Leela conveys the message of this particular dharma of Karma Yoga. I used to always think that it would have been a Herculean task for Sri Shuka to contain all the innumerable Bala leelas in his work Srimad Bhagavatam. Who can ever contemplate the leelas he intended to do when he descended to the world in order to promote and protect dharma and save Bhudevi, who was sinking with the burden of wicked people? Of course, we are fortunate to have had many devotees who have authored beautiful works on his life and leelas, their bhavanas arising from their adoration and devotion to that dark-hued boy. So stories from Manipravala by Kunjan Nambiyar and verses from Sri Krishna Karnamritam of Pundanam and Leela Shuka were devoured with delight. We used to anxiously wait for elderly relative to come home, a master storyteller on Krishna Leelas, some of them which were not found in Bhagavatam, picking from the above mentioned texts. How we laughed in delight as she added naughty details of the pranks of Balakrishna. How we laughed when she narrated one mischievous Leela of his, who tricked the gopi who refused to oblige the boy's request to give appam, paniyaram, which she was planning to take to her father-in-law. It is said that when she went for her bath, they emptied the container and filled it with cow dung balls, which got her into trouble when it was served later. As mentioned, these stories are the outcome of the bhavanas of poets Kunjan Nambiyar, which amused the Keralites with his entertaining kritis and the satirical art form of Otandullal. He, in his beautiful work, Manipravala, narrates many Bala Leelas in a very enjoyable way. The verses flow with such ease and rhythm and with such rasa. One reads it again and again. That form of that adorable Bala lingers in our mind forever. The gist of verses are like this. Due to extreme desire and longing for milk and butter, the Devati Deva started stealing them. Every day, Balakrishna, along with a couple of comrades, stealthily reached the houses of gopis and finished whatever milk, curd, or butter there was, without even leaving anything to remain. They would get inside, and after making sure that the gopis had left, drank the milk, and if anything remained, poured it on the floor. When the gopis, after returning, saw this, he laughed aloud from outside and ran away. When these sports became intolerable, the gopis started hanging their milk pots from the ceiling. But for the little Krishna, that was not a problem. He either climbed on top of a friend or poked the mud pot with a rod and received the milk that was flowing from the top. This became a daily pastime, that is to go to different houses, steal the butter, milk, etc., and give the remaining to the cats that followed them. When the chatter of the inmates could be heard from outside, he was scared and scooted back to go and hide in his house. So when these mischiefs became incorrigible to bear, the gopis decided to go and meet Yashoda, to whom they listed their complaints of her darling boy. One gopi said, "What should we say about your son's wicked ways, O queen? Your son's mischief has crossed all limits. We can't tolerate him anymore. You are pampering him too much. That's why he's becoming worse and worse day by day. It is going to be a black mark to your kula even. Your son roams around our houses in utter indiscipline, destroying whatever that meets his eye. He is not satisfied with any amount of eatables we give. After eating everything, he throws and breaks the vessels also. We give him whatever he wants, but in spite of that, he steals whatever little is there at home. He's adept in the worst form of cheating and stealing. What does he gain by breaking our pots? We are poor people." Now he has gone one step further. Nowadays, after the routine visit, we find many bowls and plates missing. What can we do if the Prabhu Kumara himself chooses to act like this? Another gopi said, "Listen to what happened to me one day. My father is a very old man. I had boiled a big bowl of milk and kept it in his room. When I went for my bath, your son emptied the whole milk and filled it with gomutra. When my father came in the evening, it had become dark. He drank a little and threw the bowl at me, cursing and calling me names. At the time, I heard a giggle from outside the window, behind the bush, saying, 'This is what happens to you when you deny something when I ask.'" Another one said, "My plight is worse. He let loose the ropes of all the cows that had died after milking them. He also released the calves and led them to the paddy fields that was about to harvest. When I was searching for them helplessly, there comes your son, happily humming a song, shouting that all your cows are freely grazing in your fields. Your calves are also enjoying along with them. Foolish woman, go and milk your cows if your calves have left anything for you. What should we do? Should we leave the village? It has become impossible to stay here any longer." Yashoda, whose heart was towards her son, patiently hearing all these, replied softly, "I am also pained to hear your voice, but I am unable to scold or punish him. Isn't he a small boy? Is it impossible? It is impossible for me. I do understand your laws. I will replace your mud pots with golden pots, jewelry, and money. Go back with a happy mind." Neither she nor the gopis realized that all these were dramas and pranks enacted by the compassionate little Krishna. Little Krishna were the master plans which attained the desired results, helping the poverty-stricken gopis whose life revolved around their daily chores and the son of Yashoda, whom they loved as their own son. The compassionate Lord had understood their needs and poverty, and by these leelas had brought it to the notice of his mother. A Patakar in his discourse describes the scene thus. When the gopis listed their woes, Yashoda, who initially refused to believe, called her son to question him. Her face had become flushed with anger and embarrassment. He came with timid steps, feigning fake fear, trembling as though he was about to cry, a picture of sheer innocence. Yashoda's face readily turns into motherly love and compassion. Her heart melts and she gathers him in her lap, forgetting why she ever called him at all. In discourses on these works, such speakers, while describing these, drenched and immersed the listeners in the ocean of bhakti and prema, arousing in them sattvic bhavas, like Kunjan Nambiyar, there are many others who captivated the heart of devotees in describing the Bala Leelas. Look at the form of Balakrishna as pictured by Pundanam in his Sri Krishna Karnamritam. Yashoda is asking him to come for his bath in the verse, Unni Bava. She beckons him like this, "Oh my little boy, come bathe and get dressed quickly. Why are you roaming around dirty with dust all around? Have you forgotten that it is your birthday? Don't you want to wear your new clothes and jewels and eat all favorite foods that is waiting for you? May my mind ever linger on that form of that darling boy who gave a delightful smile when he heard her call." What a normal and natural picture of an everyday scene in the life of the Lord. To all in the past and present, he has been everybody's own boy. The delight and love one experiences whenever his leelas are mentioned, I don't think any living or mythical character has ever enjoyed. Look at the most calmly form of Balakrishna, whom Leela Shuka paints in his work, again in Sri Krishna Karnamritam. There are many popular verses like Kasturi, Tilakam, etc. There are many such verbal pictures like these. For example, may my mind always resort to that little Krishna frolicking in my heart, that dear child who steals butter from the gopis, the darling of the cowherd women, and the son of Nanda Gopa, who got him as his son as a result of his endless meritorious deeds done in his previous births. What all are the pictures that come to our mind when Leela Shuka says in his verse below, that Balakrishna who jumps and plays running around underneath the cows when they were being milked by the gopis, the sound of the jingling anklets combining of the calves with that of calling out Ambe, Ambe, the cows standing still, absorbed in the scintillating music that is flowing from his flute, dancing, laughing, and hooting with his friends while playing with them again. Again, in another verse, he asks, "O Krishna, how strange are your ways. You have no problem rollicking in the murky mud in the fields, but hesitates to be present in the yajna bhumi, where learned Brahmins are performing yajnas. When your dear cows make certain noises, you playfully imitate them, but you answer that thousands of solemn praises showered on you with your silence. You have no problem at all in doing the household chores to the poor gopis and be at their beck and call. But you hesitate to oblige the detached sages when they call you." Here is another picture of that Navanita Chora. That little Krishna who was crawling in his knees, seeing his image in the floor, was trying to pick it from the floor. When his efforts become futile, he burst out crying, looking at Yashoda as though to complain about the floor. Here is a very interesting one, a very popular one too. Look at this picture of that mischievous boy when he's caught red-handed by the gopis while trying to steal the butter from the pot. Gopi. Who are you, my child? Krishna. Rama's brother. Gopi. Why are you here? Krishna. I mistook this as my own house accidentally and came here. Gopi. Right. But why is your hand in my butter pot? Krishna. Oh, mother, don't misunderstand me. I'm searching for my white calf that is loose from our cowshed. May that sweet rascal who made that gopi to burst out laughing protect me also. Another amusing Krishna one. Krishna. Oh, mother Yashoda. What, my dear? Krishna. Give me the bowl of milk. Yashoda. What for? At this time? Krishna. To drink the milk. Yashoda. It is not yet time. Krishna. Then when? Yashoda. Let it become night. Krishna. When is this night? Yashoda. When it becomes dark. Krishna, on hearing this description of night, closed both his eyes and exclaimed, Mother, it's dark and it has become night. Quickly give me the milk. May that Balagopala who performed such leelas ever protect us. Another beautiful scene. When Yashoda beckoned her son to drink milk, when his brother Balarama was not there, he replied, Let me go and call Balarama. Yashoda, no need. If you drink this milk, before Balarama comes, your hair will grow fast. Immediately on hearing this, holding his hair in one hand and drinking half the milk, he explained, By now itself, my hair has grown so long. Happily saying, he finished the milk. How many such beautiful pictures go through our mind when we think of him? Like these, there are many, many beautiful and amazing tales of Balakrishna, and this is naturally endless as we see that the miracles that happen to devotees even today. That number of popular tales of Lord Guruvayurappan, who is worshipped as Balakrishna, obliging Nenmani Chini by partaking Nevidya at his earnest and respectful request, arriving as a stranger boy and demanding a new beautiful Paramundu from Melicheri Nambudiri, an ardent devotee on Onam Day, when he was distributing mundus to his folks, running along with a group of poor boys as one among them around the temple, who were punished by the strict manager of the temple for bathing a couple of cows from the vessel containing manjadi berries in the temple, etc., etc. This list is endless, and as a devotee says, it might be impossible to count the sand grains on the seashore, but it may be possible to count the sand grains on the seashore, but trying to count the number of leelas of the Lord is impossible. Hence, let me conclude this effort of mine in trying to do the impossible task to speak on his leelas, which cannot be compromised by anybody or comprehended by anybody unless he wishes it. I can only add one more line in the verse in Narayaniyam where Bhattadripad gives a picture of Krishna. The people of Mathura are surprised and wonder-struck, captivated by the most beautiful form of Krishna and Balarama arriving in the royal court of Kamsa, each of them majestically holding an elephant tusk of Kuvalaya Pedam on their shoulder, and hail in unison, saying, Jaya Jaya. Bhattadripad has beautifully enjoined their joyous feeling in the verse, Ham Ham Dhanyo Nanando. Nanda is the most fortunate person. No, it is the gopis who are the most fortunate. No, it is Yashoda who will excel all in fortune. Not at all. Among the two worlds, the most fortunate are our eyes who are able to behold him. Here I may be permitted to add a line more. It is not any of them, but we are also drenched in the ocean of his leelas during this satsang who are fortunate. Jaya 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 Deva 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 Tribhuvana Mangala Divya Namadheya Jaya 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 Balakrishna Deva Shravana Manonayanamritavatara. Shri Krishnamritamastu, Krishnarpanamastu, Shri Sathguru Arpanamastu. Pranams to Sathguru and Swamiji. Pranams to all. Namaskars.